So we do hear about men ghosting and disappearing, and I know you've talked about this and done videos on this, but what are your recommendations for women if a man, things seem to be going pretty well? I'm not talking just after a first date, but maybe they've gone out a few times and then a man just kind of disappears. What's your best advice on that?
I don't know if there is a lot of advice that we can share. The only one that comes to my mind is being distant, right? There is only two reasons why a man will just be distant or pull away or ghost. Number one, it's because there is too much pressure in the relationship. So maybe you're seeing each other too much. There is too much communication. By being distant, you let him clear his mind and come back to you. Number two, someone will ghost you because it doesn't have the courage to break up with you, but also because he knows that by ghosting you, he can come back whenever he wants. So it's what I call the open door. I don't want to communicate with you, but I come back whenever I want. So I do feel that ghosting is a manipulative action. I don't like it from a man. I prefer men that can voice their needs or their emotions. So the only advice that I share is you being distant and not waiting, just rebuilding yourself, cleaning your mind and tell yourself that you have done nothing wrong. And if it comes back fast, then maybe it was just having a lot of pressure, which is okay for me. But if it takes a couple of time and he comes back by saying, I love you, I'm sorry, that's not true. He doesn't love you and he's not sorry. So I don't believe in these words, basically. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the ghosting situation, Michelle?
Well, I do think that, unfortunately, it happens way too often. We hear about it quite frequently. I have a couple of thoughts that I think are a little bit nuanced. First of all, I think we have to make sure he's really ghosted. Like, I've had clients that have called me in a panic and said, he was talking to me every day and we were in contact every day, and now he hasn't called me for 2 days. He's ghosted me. Well, in my mind, I'm like, 2 days is not ghosting, right?
That's true.
He may have been busy for 2 days. And I'm like, I don't think he thinks he's ghosted you in that case. So I think, first of all, we have to kind of like balance ourselves out a little bit before we come to the conclusion that someone has ghosted, because I have found sometimes women think that men have ghosted them prematurely. Let's just put it that way. So that's a little nuance. And the second piece is that I do think sometimes it's a normal part of a relationship for one party or the other to need a little bit of time to just kind of sort out their feelings. I do think it would be better if we communicated about that rather than just disappeared. And I do think that there needs to have a conversation around this if someone comes back into your life before you just accept them with open arms. Mm-hmm. Because I would feel very comfortable in saying, I'm happy to hear from you. I have found this last couple of weeks very confusing, though, because we were in such close contact and then I haven't heard from you. And I'm just curious about, what's been going on for you. I mean, it's like we have to be willing to shine the light in the dark corners to find out the truth, to have a healthy relationship. There's just no substitute for it. So I think it's tricky, but I do think sometimes it's pretty normal for one person or the other to need to just kind of like think about where they're at and how and get in touch with their feelings. Like I sometimes think men need to miss women before they recognize how strong their feelings are for them. So from that standpoint, a little separation sometimes makes sense. So I'm a little nuanced on some of this. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I just agree with you. And I do feel that it's better to communicate. So I understand men, sometimes they need distance. You said it very perfectly. They need to miss women, right? In order for them to know, okay, this is the one. But when it's ghosting without words, it could be also very toxic. So we have to be careful, but we can also have an open communication.
Yeah, and I do think we also learn a lot about people based on patterns. So what you said earlier, Alex, about if this happens more than once and he comes back and says, oh, I love you, I'm sorry, but it happens repeatedly, that's a pattern, that's a problem. That's something we have to pay attention to. If it happens once and he comes back and you're able to have an honest communication and understanding around maybe what was going on, maybe he says, I got scared. I realized how much I felt for you. I had to kind of figure out that I was ready, but I am ready. And I really want to see if we can make this work. That's a different kind of scenario than him just dropping in and out of your life.
True.
Right.
Very true. Yeah, I do agree.